The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. This show is sponsored by JoyNetRadio.com and RibRub.com. Now, I know what you're saying. You said, Dave, I thought we had lost you. Well, I will tell you that I thought I had lost me too. As you all well know, it's been almost a little over a year ago that I became gravely ill, and I've been battling ever since. And I'm having some peaks and I'm having some valleys. I'm trying to get to a middle level, and over the last 3 months, I have not been able to get to either. So I'm feeling a lot better. So my promise to you that I will be doing Black Focus Radio at least once a week. The main show will air every Monday. It will be a new show. And my goal is to hopefully crank it up to twice a week, 3 times a week, and then go full bore back to 5 days a week. But we got to take it one step at a time. There's been a lot of things that have gone on, of course, in my life. What you all don't know, I've married since the last time you spoke with me, or the last time I spoke to you guys. Have a wonderful wife. She is taking good care of me. And of course, my son and my daughter is saying, hey, Dad, you're old. I'm finally beginning to admit that, regardless of the gray hair. And so I'm trying to slow down a little bit. But that doesn't mean that my activism will stop. That doesn't mean that I will stop bringing you facts, straight up facts. We will always do that regardless of what's going on. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So let me just tell you a little bit about what we're going to try to cover on the show. We've got a lot of stuff, and I don't know if I'm going to get to all of this, but I'm going to get to as much as I can. The first headline I have here today simply says, why? And what I mean by that is what you're not hearing from the national media, from the white media, is why so many white people openly and closetly, if that's a word, has supported Donald Trump and MAGA. These are not all MAGA people who voted for Donald Trump. I'm going to tell you why. I've told you before, but I think it bears repeating that we have to continue to be vigilant. The other thing we want to talk about is the media in general. I think today that black media is more important than it has ever been in our lifetime. Let me say this again. Black media today is more important than it has ever been in our lifetime. I'll tell you why as well. I also want to talk a little bit about Target and why it is important for us to begin to put dollars or eyes on our dollars. And I saw an interesting video of a black minister who had purchased close to $3,000, or attempted to purchase $3,000 worth of Target products, got to the register, had them ring it all up, and walked out. Classic. I loved it. Also, boycotts. That's part of Target. And why don't we take a page out of what Canada threatened to do? We as black people. I'm going to tell you how we can do that here real soon. If I get to it, I want to talk about Lindell Lee's execution. Many of you who are listening around the country don't know who Lindell Lee was. He was executed in Arkansas in 2017. There were evidence of doubt to his criminality, and yet the governor went ahead, Asa Hutchinson, by the way, I want to call his name, went ahead and refused to sign the order to block the execution, and this man is dead. And now new evidence is coming out that on the murder weapon, his DNA wasn't on it. It was somebody else's. Whoa. Yeah, whoa. That's what we've got going on. And, oh yeah, we can't forget about the whining Hispanics. Y'all got farfoed, okay? And I don't want to hear anything else about, oh, he didn't tell us the truth. Well, what did you expect from a criminal, from a felon, from a liar? We've got all of that and more today, folks. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. But as we've always done, in honor of Black history, because, you know, we celebrate Black history on Black Focus Radio 365, 24/7. Okay? So we got to do Black facts. So let's go ahead and do that right now.
Dynamic Black facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
Who are the ancestors of African Americans? Well, most African Americans believe that the majority of their DNA has roots in Africa, while the remaining has roots in Native American tribes and Europe. This is often backed by genetic studies that reveal that African Americans have 73.2% African DNA, 24% European DNA, and 0.8% Native American DNA. This makes everyone believe that they are majorly descendants of black slaves. But what if we tell you that it's wrong? You have been intentionally told so. In fact, studies reveal that about 98% of African Americans have Native American roots. So, why were you lied to and what do they want to hide? Let's find that out in this video.
The Black History Archives.
You would have never heard that tens of millions of native black Americans, or rather Indians, used to live before Christopher Columbus came to America. However, immediately after 1492, all of them disappeared. But where did they all go? Well, many were shipped to Europe and Africa as Indian slaves. That's when we realized that the story we have been taught about the slave trade is actually backward. Instead of a massive influx of Africans to America, black Indians were transported from America to Europe. From there, they were sent from Spain to Africa as commodities in exchange for African resources. These black Indians, now mistakenly identified as African Americans, were later shipped back to America and labeled as African slaves. This crucial part of our history is often neglected in school curriculums. Every European nation that colonized North America exploited Indian slaves for construction, plantations, and mining. These slaves were frequently sent to outposts in the Caribbean and Europe. Historical records, particularly those from South Carolina, the original English colony of Carolina established in 1670, provide the most authentic documentation of this practice. Between 1650 and 1730, it's estimated that at least 50,000 Indians, possibly more, were exported by the English to their Caribbean outposts. Many shipments were concealed to avoid paying government tariffs and taxes. Between 1670 and 1717, more Indians were exported than Africans were imported. Entire tribes in the southern coastal regions were decimated by slavery more than by disease or war. A law passed in 1704 conscripted Indian slaves to fight in colonial wars long before the American Revolution. Indians found themselves caught in the colonial powers' strategies for economic control. The fur trade in the Northeast, the English plantation system in the South, and the Spanish mission system in Florida all caused major disruptions to Indian communities. Displaced Indians from the fur trade in the North migrated south. Plantation owners armed them to hunt slaves living in Spanish mission communities. The French, English, and Spanish manipulated the slave trade to their advantage. They negotiated the freedom of slaves in exchange for peace, friendship, and military alliances. For instance, the British established ties with the Chickasaw in Georgia, who were surrounded by enemies. The Chickasaw conducted extensive slave raids in the lower Mississippi Valley, selling the slaves to the English to reduce Indian populations and prevent the French from arming them. Ironically, The English saw this as a more effective method of so-called civilizing them compared to the French missionaries' efforts. The Indian slave trade stretched from New Mexico, which was then Spanish territory, all the way north to the Great Lakes. Historians believe that every tribe in this vast region was involved in the slave trade, either as captives or traders. Slavery was a key part of the strategy to depopulate the land and make room for European settlers. Here's a reminder to please support us so we can make more videos for you by subscribing to our channel and giving the video a like. We want to build a strong community, and we need your support. Let's continue now. As early as 1636, after the Pequot War in which 300 Pequots were massacred, the surviving Pequots were sold into slavery and sent to Bermuda. Major slaving ports included Boston, Salem, Mobile, and New Orleans. From these ports, Indians were shipped to Barbados by the English, to Martinique and Guadeloupe by the French, and to the Antilles by the Dutch. Indian slaves were also sent to the Bahamas, often called breaking grounds, from where they might be transported back to New York or Antigua. Historical records show that Indians were seen as poor slaves. When not shipped far from their home territories, they easily escaped and found refuge with other Indian communities. They also died in high numbers during transatlantic journeys and succumbed to European diseases. By 1676, Barbados had banned Indian slavery, citing their too bloody and dangerous an inclination to remain here. But how does it prove that most black people in America are descendants of native black Indian people? Well, as the Indian slave trade was replaced by the African slave trade by the late 1700s, Native American women began to intermarry with imported Africans. This produced mixed-race offspring whose native identities became obscured over time. The colonial project aimed to erase the presence of Indians, and these mixed-race individuals were labeled as colored people through bureaucratic changes in public records. In places like Virginia, even when individuals were recorded as Indians on birth or death certificates or other public records, these records were often changed to colored. Census takers, determining a person's race by their appearance, frequently recorded mixed-race individuals as simply black, not Indian. As a result, today there is a population of Native American heritage, particularly in the Northeast, who are not recognized by society at large. What's more, this suggests that native black Indians and black Americans of today are the same. They share similar circumstances with the freedmen of the Cherokee and other 5 civilized tribes, as documented on the Dawes Roll cards by the United States Dawes Roll Administration. Interestingly, in early September 2015, Native American Indian tribes were awarded nearly $1 billion in a historic settlement. A total of 645 Native American tribes won settlements against the U.S. Department of Justice, amounting to $940 million. The U.S. government was fearful that more Native Indians, also known as colored, Negro, black, or simply left blank on their birth certificates, would discover their true history and heritage. This discovery could potentially force the government to grant them reparations and land. To avoid this, the U.S. quietly declared a deadline of December 31, 2014, for these individuals to make land claims and identity claims. Even though the deadline has passed, thousands of Native Indians are still winning settlements through the U.S. Supreme Court and, more commonly, through the United Nations courts. But the question is, where did those black Indian Americans come from? Until now, it's established that most black people in America today have native black American ancestors. But we have to know who these native black Americans are. Dr. David Imhotep, a renowned historian and the first person to earn a PhD in ancient African ancestry, offers a groundbreaking perspective on human origins. He argues that all humans, including Americans, trace their roots back to Africa. This view challenges the traditional narratives in American history books, which often start with cowboys and Indians. According to Dr. Imhotep, These accounts miss a much earlier and crucial chapter of American history, the presence and influence of Africans in ancient America. In his influential book, They Came Before Columbus, historian Ivan van Sertima explores various forms of evidence supporting the idea of an African presence in the New World long before Christopher Columbus's arrival. Van Sertima examines critical aspects to build his case. He looks into the sophisticated navigation and shipbuilding techniques that ancient Africans had, which could have enabled transatlantic voyages. He also draws cultural parallels between Native Americans and Africans, highlighting similarities in art, language, and religious practices that suggest historical connections. Van Sertima further investigates the transportation of plants, animals, and textiles between the continents, arguing that these exchanges indicate contact between Africa and the Americas. Additionally, he cites diaries, journals, and oral accounts of explorers referencing African peoples and their influence in the New World. Together, these elements create a compelling picture of African exploration and settlement in the Americas, well before Columbus's famous voyage in 1492. Several historical accounts support Van Sertima's thesis. One notable example is the fleet launched by the Malian Empire in 1310, comprising 200 master boats and 200 supply boats. This grand expedition highlights the advanced seafaring capabilities of West African civilizations. Another example is the sea expedition led by the Mandingo king in 1311, further demonstrating the intentional exploration efforts by African leaders. The presence and impact of Black Africans in pre-Columbian America are evident in the cultural and technological imprints they left on the civilizations they encountered. In his book, The First Americans Were Africans, Dr. Imhotep expands on these themes, calling for a radical reevaluation of traditional history. He emphasizes the importance of scientific and geological evidence in tracing the early presence of African peoples in the Americas. This evidence includes genetic studies, ancient artifacts, and geological findings suggesting that Africans were present in both North and South America long before the Vikings or Columbus. One striking piece of evidence highlighted by Dr. Imhotep is a photograph from the HMS Challenger expedition, which took place between 1872 and 1876. This photograph, currently displayed at the Natural Museum of London, shows a colorful display of African explorers in Tierra del Fuego, the southernmost region of South America. This image serves as a tangible reminder of the historical presence of Africans in the Americas, further supporting Dr. Imhotep's arguments. Ultimately, this suggests that the identity of Black people is too diverse to fit into a single label. They are Afro-Indigenous, Black Native, Indigenous and Black, Black and Native, or Black and a tribal identity. By honoring both their heritages, Black people challenge America's tradition of categorizing people into distinct racial groups. They resist societal pressure to choose between their identities based on appearance or perceived authenticity. Many blend their Black and Native identities by using traditional language or developing new expressions that reflect their unique heritage. Since the first contact between Africans and Native peoples, Black and Indigenous ancestors have built communities, formed relationships, and fought against systems of oppression unique to their communities as well as those that overlap. Despite the hardships faced, Black and Native peoples have never been conquered. They have found ways to resist oppression, creating modes of defiance such as abolition, free towns, cross-cultural alliances, kinship ties, and community building. They have pushed for freedom individually and in solidarity, birthing enduring movements of resistance. What do you think? Are Black Americans descendants of Black African slaves or Native Indian American Black people? What, in your opinion, is the reason why they hide Black Americans' real ancestry? In the comments section right below, tell us whether you have had your DNA tested and know the percentage of Native Black Indian DNA you hold.
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic Black facts, our culture, our history, our people on joynetradio.com.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that Black Fact. Of course, we bring Black Facts to you every day, every show. We've got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to jump into the whys. Okay? That's WHY. Back in a moment. It's Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Hi, I'm David W. Coleman, host of Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine. We here at joynetradio.com would like to thank you for all the love and support you've given us. Our goal is to keep you inspired and informed daily with quality programming from gospel music, news, talk, and sports. Log on to joynetradio.com for the program lineup, and while there, be sure to make a donation. Then download our app and carry us anywhere in the world. Please continue to spread the word about joynetradio.com. And if you are an entrepreneur or have an upcoming event or you'd like to start a show, let the professional writers and producers here at joynetradio.com help you get the word out. Call me at 615-554-0568 for more details. In the meantime, stay informed and inspired daily right here on joynetradio.com.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with us if you'd like to join the show. We are back. I was telling you before I went off the air that I was planning to put together, while I was getting together my new studio. It's here. You can see the computer in the background. We'll be doing shows from this area a lot. There's another area in my house that we'll be doing some shows from. But I just wanted to show you that it is here. You can see some of my electronic equipment. There's still a few little tweaks and things that we need to put together, but we're going to get it all together here real soon. So I appreciate your patience on that. As I said, I've been off the air for about 3 months. Probably even more, and it's been because of my illness, but I am back. I am feeling better. As you can see, I even kind of look a little better. I've been meeting so many people, when I tell them my age, I can't believe that I'm going to be 64 in May. And when I tell people my age, they say, you don't look 64. Now, I don't know if they're trying to gaslight me or what, but I think many of them are sincere. And I said, well, what about all this gray hair? They say, well, still, you don't look 64. Your body looks good. Your face looks good. And as I talk to you, certainly your mind is good. So I want to thank everybody for being concerned about me, and the prayers and the positive comments, and many people saying, man, when is Black Facts coming back, and when is Black Focus coming back? And this is the first show of the new year. I wanted to do it in January, but again, it was just not conducive for me as far as my health is concerned. So, but I am feeling better. So hopefully we can continue to move forward as this, and we are so needed right now. So there are a couple of things I want to start off with today. I want to start off with why, and I want to start off with the media. Okay? First and foremost, by now you know Donald Trump has been reelected. A lot of people are upset. A lot of black people are upset. There are a lot of things that are going on. There's a lot of fallout. Before I went off the air, I tried to warn you black folks who were buying or drinking the Trump water that it was not going to be good for our community. And that is beginning to bear itself out. So I won't, and as we continue to do shows, we'll talk more about what he's doing specifically. But I want to tell you all why this is happening. Okay? And I've talked about this over and over and over again, and no one wanted to listen to me. No one wanted to hear me. But now you're beginning to see. And the reason it is happening, in fact, is because the media is not being honest with you either. Now, I know what you just said. You said, well, when has the media ever been honest as it relates to black people? They never have. Okay, but the media has refused to address this issue. Every now and then you might see a black guest on a white media outlet make reference to it, but they do not go into details. So it is important for us to understand why this is happening. And is there anything we can do about it? I think there is. Okay, so why is it that so many MAGAs, so many white people, because it wasn't just MAGA who elected Donald Trump. It was your white coworkers, a lot of them, okay? It was your so-called white buddies that you probably watched the Super Bowl with yesterday. By the way, I'm not watching the Super Bowl, okay? I'm not watching the Super Bowl, and I'm getting ready to excise myself from the NFL as a whole. Okay, let me tell you why. And this is all part of the why that I started off on the show today. The NFL decided that they were going to remove the message that was in their end zones that said "End of racism." Well, why did they do that? Or why are they doing that? They also decided that they were going to give Josh Allen the MVP of the league, even though there was a black quarterback by the name of Lamar Jackson who has statistics far better than than Josh Allen. Okay, far better. But they decided that they don't want to give the black quarterback the MVP 3 times in a row. They'll give it to someone who is substandard. Now, don't get me wrong. Josh Allen is a pretty darn good quarterback, but he wasn't better than Lamar Jackson this year. He just wasn't. But guess what? They gave the MVP to Josh Allen. In other words, we have our first DEI MVP, and he's a white boy named Josh Allen. Not mad at Josh Allen. I'm mad at the powers that be who dictated this. Okay? Now, why are they doing all of this? Let me be honest with you. When you hear the words from this point on, when you hear a white boy or a white girl, and I'm calling them boys and girls because that's what they are, because they're certainly not acting like men and women. When you hear them say CRT, woke, or what is the other one? Or DEI. Just remember, they're simply saying nigga. Okay? That's all they're saying is nigga. These cuts, these attacks in the job place, in the marketplace, is nothing but anti-black. That's all it is. Now again, I told you, why are they doing this? This is what the media will not tell you. 2042, let's see, we've got 16 years. I don't know that I'll be here in 16 years, considering my age. I often say that I have more time behind me than I have ahead of me. So I try to maximize the time that I have left on this planet to educate you, those of you who are listening to me. So why are they doing this? 2042, baby. Now, if you've listened to this show at any stretch, you've heard me talk about 2042. If you hear my morning drops on Joynet radio, you've heard me talk about 2042. What's happening in 2042? By then, this country will be majority minority. So why are they shipping all the brown skin and black skin people, or trying to get them out of the country? They're trying to stop 2042. Okay? You don't hear them going, if they were serious about illegal immigration, did you know that there are illegal Irish people here? Did you know that there are illegal Russian people here? Did you know that there are illegal white-skinned people from various parts of the world here in America? But have you seen any stories of ICE going into those enclaves, going into those jobs and saying, hey, show me your papers? No, you haven't. You know why? Because they are white-skinned. Now, remember what Donald Trump said in his first stint at the White House. He said, the black countries, the brown-skinned countries, are asshole countries, right? Y'all remember that, right? Because I know some of you black brothers don't, because y'all voted for Donald Trump too. I'm going to get to y'all later on in the show. Y'all Sambos. But I'm going to get to y'all later on in the show. Okay? He said, why don't we get people from Greenland and, Norway and, other white countries? Because he has bought into the white supremacist mantra. There should be no doubt now that Donald Trump is a white supremacist. Okay? There should be no doubt. And at some point, I got to go back and pull up the Albert Haynesworth letter that he posted on Facebook. Albert Haynesworth was a friend of mine. I still consider him a friend. But Albert Haynesworth is black. And Albert Haynesworth was one of those many people who were running around supporting Donald Trump and convincing all of his black friends to vote for Donald Trump. He wrote a very poignant letter on Facebook about how he was shocked. No, you were duped, my friend. You were duped. And now you're paying the consequences. Okay? So, if we get a chance, at some point, not this show, but at some point, we got to go back and do that for Albert. Because, you know what, I'm going to tell you, brother, I don't feel sorry for you. I have another friend in Nashville who tries to slyly support Donald Trump. He's been very quiet over the last few months. You know, even though I haven't been doing the show, I've certainly been monitoring Facebook. And for the first time, he posted something on Facebook the other day. Really, dude. Bro, you know better than that. But anyway, why is 2042? Because for the first time in the history of America, this country will be predominantly or majority minority. White people are scared to death. You know, I've often said this, that if you think civil rights are so bad, why are you afraid to use them for yourself? Oh, that's right, y'all do. Y'all do use affirmative action. See, you do realize that affirmative action has benefited white women more than any other ethnic group. You just like DEI has benefited white women more than any other ethnic group. Black people have always been on the bottom, and they're still on the bottom, and the policies that were put forward to support our communities have not been used to support our communities. It's been white women who are married to white men who they voted for Donald Trump. I told y'all in the election, before I went off the air, I warned you all that watch white women. All of you black women out there who are supporting or have so-called white women friends, you need to do a double take. You need to do a double check, because those white women, they laugh and smile and talk about how cute your baby is and have you to bring food from home and get your recipes and y'all go out for lunch and, oh, you know, Sally's so nice. Yeah, Sally is nice until she gets to the voting booth. And then everything is different. She remembers that you're still a nigga. Hello? I'm being real. Look, I should have apologized before I started today's show. This show's going to be a little raw today. And you know what? From this point forward, all my shows are going to be a little rawer, if that's a word. Now, you probably say, well, Dave, your shows always have been a little raw. Well, they about to get a little more raw. Okay? Look, I got more time behind me than I have ahead of me. I'm not afraid of anything. Okay? You can come get me. I don't care. But one thing I am not going to do is capitulate my First Amendment rights and speak truth to power. That's what we got to do. It's going to offend a lot more people. It's going to offend some of you black folks. It's going to offend some white folks. It's going to offend some Hispanics. But you know what? I don't care, because I truly believe that what I'm saying has to be said, because no one else is talking about it. Everybody is afraid. I have never seen a nation, corporations, companies that were so afraid of what was going on right now. We are not doing this anymore. We simply are not doing this anymore. So yes, this is my first show back, and I'm going to be doing more shows because it's time. Everybody else is afraid to say anything. I am not going to be silent on what needs to be said. You've got to understand that going forward. 855-525-5683 is the number. The why is 2042. white people are afraid that there are going to be minorities in this country. I've often relayed the story of talking to white friends or white coworkers. When I worked at Dell Computers, quite often we had a bigot that was on my line, and he would always espouse these racist tendencies. And I asked him then, and that was, that was almost 10 years ago that I worked at Dell. I left Dell in 2015, so it's 24 now. And I would ask him, I say, man, are you familiar with white genetic annihilation? Because that's what Dr. Frances Cress Welsing calls it. Remember, she did the show, and you can go back and look on Donahue. She did the show about white genetic annihilation. It's also in her book, The ISIS Papers. And she talked about white genetic annihilation, the fear of becoming a minority. She broke it down with genetics. It wasn't some idea. It wasn't some fake policy. She broke it down with genetics. Okay? Dominant genes versus recessive genes. You know what the dominant gene is, right? The dominant gene is people of color, people who possess melanin. We know now, if you go off to my wall, I post all the time the origin of civilizations and how black people began everything. The place where civilization began is Africa. Okay? That's where it began. All right? Everything else came out of Africa. That's why you hear me often say that white people are our children. They are our children who have grown up to disrespect their ancestors, who are us. And we've allowed them to do that because of our ignorance and because of the white supremacy that they infected our minds with. So Dr. Welsing talked about that. And I think that show came on in 82, 83 on Donahue. That's when it came on. White people in the audience laughed at her. White people in the audience chastised her. White people in the audience couldn't believe her. Here we are today, and it is becoming more and more relevant that what Dr. Frances Cress Welsing talked about was true. 2042 is 16, 18 years away. And they're beginning to see the browning of America. It has nothing to do with immigrants. Mexican immigrants are not going to brown America. It has everything to do with genetics. It has everything to do with biology. The dominant gene versus the recessive gene. You know what? We all love Black Panther, right? It's a movie. But you know, in real nature, a Black Panther is rare. Did you know that? It's rare. It has nothing to do with, if you took a Black Panther today and mated it with another Black Panther, in all likelihood, it would come out spotted, because actually a Black Panther is nothing more than a leopard. Did y'all know that? It's an anomaly. Same with a white lion or a white tiger. Those are anomalies. And I hate to tell you this, but white skin is an anomaly. Don't get mad at me. Go do your research like I've done. Y'all can get mad all you want. And eventually what occurs in nature is that the dominant gene, which is this right here, it begins to take over. We see it in all kinds of scientific experiments. We see it in biology. The dominant gene begins to take over. That's what's happening. And that's what white people are afraid of. Yeah. 2042. I told you I was going to tell you the why. See, your white friends who you thought were your friends, they understand this. White people have understood this for a while. This is why they don't want to teach you history. This is why they don't want you learning biology. This is why they're trying to destroy the Department of Education. This is the why. We got to take a break. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Listen! Did you miss Dr. Ernest Gill from UT San Antonio?
When you're making $455 million off these student athletes and all you can come up with is $5,000, John Calipari makes $8 million a year, and his players are going to get $5,000 a year. The majority of these teams were white men and white males and females. Would this be happening? And I would say no, because their families wouldn't let it happen. But we're letting our kids get pimped.
Join the weekly sports magazine every Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. on joynetradio.com.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. We spent the last segment talking about the why all this is happening in America today. At the top of the next hour, I want to talk a little bit about the importance of black media and the media as a whole. I've talked a little bit about it already, but I want to get into it a little bit more, and I want to relay a story to you that I know personally that I had to take a black male to task as he was attacking black media outlets. So we'll talk about that at the top of the next hour. We'll also include the media capitulation that is going on as it relates to Donald Trump. But we're also next hour, we want to talk a little bit about, let's see here, boycotts. What's happening at Target, what I'm about to do. I've spent a lot of money over the years at Sam's. I am going to go to Costco. We're going to talk about that as well. But I want to take this last segment of this hour to talk a little bit about the Whining Hispanics. And also, we want to talk a little bit about, we're going to talk this last segment about the Whining Hispanics. No, that's not a trapeze group. That is not a music group. That is all of the Hispanics. I think the number was close to 40%. Donald Trump got 40% of the Hispanic vote this past segment. And for some reason or another, I guess the Hispanics felt like that he was going to do something for them, even though he was the same guy who was talking about building a wall. Yeah, I still drink my agua fria. He was the same guy who was talking about building a wall. He wasn't talking about building a wall on the Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean, but he was talking about building a wall across the Rio Grande to keep you people out. Yet for some weird reason, you people decided that you all were going to support him 100%. I'm going to read a couple of things to you, okay? This is from Raw Story, the website, rawstory.com. And according to the Associated Press, many of the evangelical Latino churches already feel devastated and abandoned, okay, because of his authorization of immunizations and customer enforcement, in other words, ICE, to conduct immigration raids at schools and churches. Although many Latino evangelicals believe that Donald Trump would only target people with criminal records for deportation, they've been surprised to learn that even some of their own pastors are now in the crosshairs. Wow. Augustin Cuellas, a spokesman for the Florida Fellowship of Hispanic Councils and Evangelical Institutions, tells the Associated Press that he's disturbed that the messaging appears to be that anyone who is undocumented is a criminal. And he said that we want to ask the president to reconsider because these actions are causing pain and trauma to so many families in and beyond our churches. You didn't believe fat meat was greasy, didn't you? You didn't think Donald Trump's poop stank, did you? Okay? So don't come to me whining about what Donald Trump is doing to you. Don't come to me whining about why is he targeting you, because you all voted for him overwhelmingly. You see, I've told you all over and over again that, see, Hispanics think they're white. That's not me saying it. That's them and their actions saying it. Hispanics don't like dark-skinned Hispanics. They use more bleaching cream in South America and Mexico than anywhere else in the country, other than Japan, because Japan uses a lot of bleaching creams to make their skin lily white. In other words, if you're not Anglo-Saxon, then white people, white supremacists, don't like you. They will use you like the Sambos that we have, like Snoop Dogg and Nelly and Byron Donalds. They will use you for their own ends, but after they're done with you, they want nothing else to do with you. It's kind of like Massa coming out to the slave quarters and using black women's bodies, and once he's done raping and mutilating them, he's done with them. Hello? That's exactly what they've done to the Hispanics. And the Hispanics now are upset. They're mad. You remember I told you that Mexico just started counting their Afro-Mexicans. It may be 5 years ago. They have millions of Afro-Mexicans who are dark-skinned that look just like me, but only thing is that you all don't realize, because you don't know your history. We talk a lot about the Underground Railroad going up the East Coast, and I live here in Baltimore, north of Baltimore in Towson, and there are all kinds of historical markers as it relates to the Underground Railroad and the stops where they went on to Canada. What many of you all don't realize is that the Underground Railroad just didn't come east and up the East Coast. It also went west. And many of those escaped slaves went into Mexico and developed communities. But even before then, the Aztecs, the Incas, all of those Mexican native tribes, they have histories of black people. They were born out of black people. It wasn't until people like Columbus and Amerigo Vespucci and other explorers from Portugal and Spain came to what they called the New World. It was new to them, but it was old to our ancestors, and started infiltrating those people, impregnating those women, and suggesting, because of the white Jesus, that in order for you to be better, in order for you to be pure, you had to be white. Hello. Yeah, we doing this. That's what we're seeing. So now, all of a sudden, all of these Hispanics, they upset. They upset. Latinos for Trump. Really? I'm laughing at y'all asses. I am. Let me get to the other story about, because see, there was another, I don't even want to talk about Paula White, but there are some other stories that we hadn't, that relates to this issue. Okay? All of the Venezuelans, they're Hispanics too, but they're from Venezuela. Did you know, I didn't realize, I read something where in Portugal, there are no black people in Portugal, not Portugal, but Peru at all. Did y'all know that? I'm just as shocked as you are. But I'm trying, here he is. Here my boy is. Have y'all ever heard of Hector Luis Valdez Cocho? Hector Luis Valdez Cocho. Y'all know who he is? Well, let me tell you who Hector is. Our boy Hector, he was a boxer, a championship boxer, okay? He supported Donald Trump. He walked around with a flag, says, Trump 24, let's go Brandon. Yeah, that guy, him. Guess what? Last week he was picked up by ICE. And you know where he is now? Poor Hector Luis Cacho is now in a detention center. He's about to be deported to Cuba. All right? Yeah, that guy. I'm not crying any tears for you Hispanics, because your racism now is coming back to bite you. What you're beginning to realize, what you should have realized long ago, that white people don't give a damn about you. They'll use you. They'll use you. But they don't care anything about you. I hear ICE is getting on school buses and arresting children without their parents. Let me give you a little bug in your ear. If you're an American citizen, you don't have to talk to ICE. You don't have to open a door for ICE. And why is it that the companies that you all are working for are allowing ICE to come in your business? I've seen videos of ICE chasing down Hispanics inside of warehouses. ICE will walk up to you on the street and say, I need to see your ID. And you know what you need to say is, no, you don't, and keep walking. I'm waiting for one to walk up to me and ask me for mine. Now, obviously, I'm an American citizen, but you do realize that there are American citizens who are being caught up in this ICE net. Did y'all know that? There are American citizens. Look, you last time you checked, you know Puerto Rico is an American territory, right? But because Puerto Ricans have an accent, many Puerto Ricans, from what I've understood in New York, are being swept up by ICE, assuming that they're Hispanics. And when they say we're Puerto Ricans, that doesn't make it any better. They still lock them up for days before they finally release them. I told you folks, this is not about crime or criminals coming to America. This is about white people in fear of white genetic annihilation. That's what this is about. This is some real stuff here. What are we going to do about it? Well, next hour I'm going to tell you, because next hour, usually at the end of the show I do something called What We Must Do. This next hour is going to be filled with things we must do. The question is, how much courage do we have? How much courage do we have? Because some of us have already sold us out. Haven't you, Steve Harvey? Haven't you, Stephen A. Smith? Haven't you, Snoop Dogg? Haven't you, Byron Donalds? Some of us have already sold us out. By the way, Jay-Z, where you at now as it relates to the NFL? Yeah, I know. You're nowhere. All right, we're going to take our top of the hour break. When we come back, it is what we must do. And in that, we're going to talk a lot about what happened at Target. We're going to talk about what happened with black media and what the importance of black media even more so today. And if we get an opportunity, I want to read the letter that Lieutenant General Russell Honore wrote about Elon Musk. Because I started talking about Elon Musk 2-3 years ago and telling you all not to trust him. You didn't listen. I know I'm just a little talk show host, but I've been talking about this for a long time. Back in a moment, it's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on JoyNetRadio.com.
Hi. Hi, I'm David W. Coleman, host of Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine. We here at JoynetRadio.com would like to thank you for all the love and support you've given us. Our goal is to keep you inspired and informed daily with quality programming from gospel music, news, talk, and sports. Log on to JoynetRadio.com for the program lineup, and while there, be sure to make a donation. Then download our app and carry us anywhere in the world. Please continue to spread the word about JoynetRadio.com. And if you are an entrepreneur or have an upcoming event or you'd like to start a show, let the professional writers and producers here at JoynetRadio.com help you get the word out. Call me at 615-554-0568 for more details. In the meantime, stay informed and inspired daily right here on JoynetRadio.com.
Listen!
Did you miss Dr. Ernest Gill from UT San Antonio?
When you're making $455 million off these student athletes and all you can come up with is $5,000, John Calipari makes $8 million a year, and his players are going to get $5,000 a year. The majority of these teams were white men and white males and females. Would this be happening? And I would say no, because their families wouldn't let it happen. But we're letting our kids get pimped.
Join the weekly sports magazine every Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. on JoynetRadio.com. Hi, I'm David W. Coleman, host of Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine. We here at JoynetRadio.com would like to thank you for all the love and support you've given us. Our goal is to keep you inspired and informed daily with quality programming from gospel music, news, talk, and sports. Log on to JoynetRadio.com for the program lineup, and while there, be sure to make a donation. Then download our app and carry us anywhere in the world. Please continue to spread the word about JoynetRadio.com. And if you are an entrepreneur or have an upcoming event or you'd like to start a show, let the professional writers and producers here at JoynetRadio.com help you get the word out. Call me at 615-554-0568 for more details. In the meantime, stay informed and inspired daily right here on JoynetRadio.com.
Listen!
Did you miss Dr. Ernest Gill from UT San Antonio?
When you're making $455 million off these student athletes and all you can come up with is $5,000, John Calipari makes $8 million a year, and his players are going to get $5,000 a year. The majority of these teams were white men and white males and females. Would this be happening? And I would say no, because their families wouldn't let it happen. But we're letting our kids get pimped.
Join the weekly sports magazine every Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. on JoynetRadio.com.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
All right, welcome back to the second hour of Black Focus Radio. It is so good to be back, and it is so good to purge, to get some of the things that have been on my mind for months off my mind and relay it to you, and hopefully getting you to think. Be sure to support our sponsors, riverhub.com and joynetradio.com, and we hope to get more sponsors as we move forward. The number is 855-525-5683 is the number. You can catch me on YouTube and Instagram also. And of course, be sure to like, share, okay? And comment. We'd like to hear what you got to say. So usually at the end of the show, I take the last segment to use to say what we must do. Okay? That's usually what I do. But in this particular show, since I haven't been on in a while, and again, thanks for all the prayers that you all offered me during that my absence, I decided to use this hour to say what we must do. All right? I want to start off by talking a little bit about the media. I've been in the media for a long time. I started off as a production assistant at WHBQ in Memphis. I was back in 87, 88. I moved on, became a newspaper reporter, became a talk show host, a sports talk show host. Then I transitioned to news talk, and that's where I am today. And what I've seen over the years is the dissolution of black media. I've seen black media outlets sell to white media. I saw a post the other day where the black-owned television stations, OWN, BET, there are two others that I didn't even know they were black, that do black content. They're owned by white people. It also annoys me that it seems to me that the majority of the movies that they can put out or series that they put out is about black people selling drugs and crime. Okay? You all realize that one of the most popular ones was The Wire, although white people were in there, but it did more detriment to Baltimore than anything else. I picked up a black woman who was the head of the Girl Scouts organization here, or at least she worked at I think she said she was the president or something like that. And we were just talking, and she asked me where I was from, and I told her I was from Little Rock, and she said, what do you think about Baltimore? And I said, I really love Baltimore, all the historical significance and yada, yada, yada. And she stopped me for a moment and looked at me and she said, I am happy you said that. I said, why? What do you mean? She says, because most of the people that I know that come here, my friends and relatives who visit, the first place they want to go is where the Wire was filmed. And you know what? I am happy to say that I have not watched one segment of The Wire. Just like I didn't watch one segment of the series that had that guy. Let me take that back. I watched 2 episodes. And I caught the last episode where this man, Ghost, had basically destroyed his family because he was a big-time drug dealer. Okay? There's the Kai. And although many of the writers are black, they understand that if they want to get their works on television, that they have to do things that are detrimental to the black community. We have no black media. We rarely saw black people loving on black people for a long time. In fact, growing up, that was blaxploitation, as we called it. We saw Shaft, and we loved Shaft. We shoved Shaft's Big Score. All of those blaxploitation, Cleopatra Jones, Coffee, all of those blaxploitation movies. We loved them because that's all we saw. Not understanding that they were subliminally sending messages to your brain saying all you all are criminals, prostitutes, and drug dealers. And you deserve to be in jail. And the white media ate it up, and so did our white counterparts. So much so now that even in our music, the music, and I don't even claim it as our music, but the music that we hear now is nothing but debauchery. And some of you always say, well, Dave, your parents said the same thing about your music. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. I was at an event one day, and we were standing outside waiting for them to open the doors. And I had my headphones in and didn't realize they were as loud as they were. And there was an older black woman standing behind me in line just like I was. And I heard her humming. And I soon realized that she was humming to the music that I was listening to in my earphones. And I turned around and I looked at her. I said, What you know about that? She said, that's real music right there. She said, as a matter of fact, my children listen to that music. There was another young lady who was in the lines, and she had to be, I asked her, she said she was 29. And she says, you know what? I listen to that music too. That's old school right there. That's when music was good. I said, what you know about that? I said, how did, she said, well, I'm 29. She said, but it don't matter because see, my mama used to make us, when we would get up on Saturday mornings to clean up the house, she'd make us listen to that music. So you know what I did? I turned my headphones off, and then we all were standing there humming to Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, singing, wake up everybody, no more sleeping in bed, no more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. It was 4 or 5 of us standing in line singing out loud, young and old. You see, that's when music was real. And we went on to talk about the music today. When all you hear about is how big you are, how you smell, you killing someone, you getting this, you eating that, it's despicable. But this is what the media has devolved to, and that's because many of our black stations have sold their souls to the devil. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Have sold their souls to the devil because they took money and ran. And now we can't even get proper programming on there. It used to be that any city that I went to, because I've been in the radio business so long, the first thing I want to listen to is the black radio stations. Who's doing black talk in this city? You can't even find black talk in Baltimore. Do you know what I just said? If you find black talk, you know what they're talking about? They're talking about Drake. They're talking about stuff that is irrelevant. They're talking about what rapper is sleeping with this rapper or that rapper. They're talking about P. Diddy and what he did. They're not talking about the issues that affect our community where we can move forward. They're not empowering our community. Roland Martin, at the beginning of the year, made sure that people knew that he was not going to back off one bit on Donald Trump. He was not going to back off one bit on Donald Trump, and neither am I. At some point, we've got to stand up. At some point, we've got to say, hey, it is important for us, the black media, to come together and speak on one accord. We can't depend on Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton has sold his soul to the devil. Al Sharpton loves being on MSNBC. And because they give him that little show, he's okay. There's always been certain black people that are okay. Al Sharpton didn't used to be okay, but he's okay now with white media. I noticed that Eddie Glaude doesn't come on Morning Joe that much anymore because Eddie Glaude took them to task. Hello? So why am I saying this? I'm going to tell you a little story. It's about some friends that I have. Both were in black media. They ran afoul. Well, I would say one ran afoul of the other and decided that he was going to try and destroy the other guy. In other words, I'm going to call them A and B. A and B, I would say B ran afoul of A. And I'm not going to get into the details of what it was, but I will tell you that it was insignificant. So B decided that he was going to do everything he could to destroy A. So he began a campaign of writing A's friends and saying all of these things about A. And I guess hoping at some point that we would all turn against A. Well, you know what? I don't operate that way, number one. And number two, A had not done anything to me. In fact, A had been very magnanimous to me. So about a year ago, I advised B to please do not include me into their personal argument, whatever it was. And I told A that B was trying to include me in their argument. And A told me what was going on. I did not take sides. But at the time I was ill, I didn't, when you're ill and when you have what I had, one of the things that the doctor tells you is that you've got to eliminate stress. And that's what I was trying to do. But B kept sending me text messages. So about 2 months ago, I literally had to cuss B out. Not that I was taking A's side, because I wasn't. But I was angry at B because B was trying to use me and my friendship with A to destroy A. And A was in the media. And as I told B, I said, in this day and time, you all need to come to an agreement, because we need black media more than ever. And I left it at that. Because we do. I support Roland Martin. I have not been on his show. I'm going to reach out to him to try and get on his show. But we as black media, we have an obligation to our community. You see, I remember the Southern Mediator Journal, where I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas. It was a black newspaper. It was what I even remember the Final Call. I'm not Muslim, but you know what? I buy the Final Call because it's black media. Do I agree with everything that's in the Final Call? No. Do I agree with everything Louis Farrakhan says? No. But I agree with a lot of stuff he says, because it is from us, for us, and by us. The white media has shown over the decades that it doesn't give a damn about black people. The white media loves to show pain and suffering in the black community, but it doesn't want to show positive things. Of course, it's gotten better over the years. But the media has capitulated. The white media has capitulated to Donald Trump and his racism. Part of the reason, remember, I told you a while back, I used to listen to Morning Joe every day. Since the election, since he and Nika Brzezinski went down to Mar-a-Lago with their hat in their hand, trying to beg Donald Trump to be nice to them, and they're not going to talk bad about Donald Trump anymore. Since then, I have stopped listening. I would listen to the entire show every morning. I've probably listened to maybe an hour since that day back in late November. Maybe an hour total. I just don't listen to that show anymore. In fact, I don't even listen to MSNBC anymore. The one black host that they have, Joy Reid, who does a fantastic job. Oh, by the way, they had a black woman who was running MSNBC. She's now moved on. They forced her out. And I've heard that they are going to make Joy Reid take a pay cut. And if she doesn't take a pay cut, guess what? They're going to get rid of her. So, why am I telling you this? I stopped watching CNN years ago. They have no credibility. Yeah, they have black faces, but they have no credibility. Faux news, What would I even watch that for? In fact, now, even sporting events, I don't even watch those on Fox that much anymore. Can't stand them. Anything that has Fox in front of it, I don't want to watch it. Just don't. Just like I told you. Not watching the Super Bowl. Not doing it. Can't. Sorry. Not doing it. You gave a white guy the MVP when it was deserved by a black guy. And the sad thing about it, that all of the people that are on ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, all the black people, except one or two, are saying this was okay. This was okay. Because they want to keep their jobs. You see, there are a lot of Sambos that have sold us out, like Stephen A. Smith and Byron Donalds. A lot of them have sold us out. We got to do better, folks. And we got to start supporting black media. We got to start supporting black businesses. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But black media is on life support. And your children are listening to radio stations that are owned by white people who are filling their heads with nothing but garbage. Nothing but garbage. They wake up and they're playing garbage. They go to bed, they're playing garbage. Their music is not giving them anything that can empower them to succeed. You see, white people understood the media long before we did because they controlled the narrative. You know, it was the white media who condoned Woodrow Wilson's playing of the racist movie in the White House. It was white media who condoned Jim Crow. It was the white media who condoned segregation. And you said, but oh, wait a minute, they did start talking about it. Yeah, because they couldn't help it, because they were forced to talk about it. By the way, that movie, Birth of a Nation, go back and check it out. Racism at its finest. Who's worse, Woodrow Wilson, who was an avowed racist, or Donald Trump, who is an avowed racist? I think it's worse for Donald Trump, because in this day and time, for him to be doing the racist things that he is doing, yeah, he's got to be worse. We need to support black media. We need to support black shows like this, Black Focus Radio. So I'm asking you to make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend about Black Focus Radio so we can tell other friends. Let's grow my network so I can make sure that we have great guests on, so I can make sure that we are doing the things that we need to do to empower our communities to succeed. We've got to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to give you some more info on what we must do. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. On Joynetradio.com.
Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at RealRub.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from RealRub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumbos and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Coleman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on RibRub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at RealBrub.com.
Hey, beautiful. You look gorgeous. Are you doing something different? There's a healthy glow about you.
Thanks. I'm just my natural self.
Come on. What's your secret?
Okay. Since I found SkinTentional.com, I've been getting a lot of those comments.
SkinTentional.com?
Yes. SkinTentional.com is handcrafted, luxurious natural baths and body care products. Crafted for those with a designer's taste for high-quality skincare products but won't break your bank. From body butter to oils and soaps, SkinTentional has something for everyone, including the man in your life. Get your man some beard balm and oils, and yes, they offer body butters and soap for him as well, without making him smell like flowers. Go to SkinTentional.com and check out their amazing products. They believe self-care should be an intentional and joyous experience for all. SkinTentional.com.
Pigskin, check. Round ball, check. Hard ball, check. Hockey puck, check. Burning rubber, check. We got it all on the weekly sports page with David Coleman. What else do you need? Did I say food? Can't have sports without food. What kind of show is this again?
A sports show.
Oh, okay. Pass me those rib nuts.
Yeah, we do have it all and a whole lot more with me, Dynamic David Coleman, on the weekly sports magazine.
All right, welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. We're talking about what we must do. Normally, if you listen to the show in the past, we usually take the last segment to zero in on some things that we should do in the black community to fight racism, to support our communities, and so on and so forth. But we're taking this entire hour to do just that because it is so important that we show or begin to understand what is going on and how it is affecting us as black people. So, let's start. I saw a video last week. It was a black preacher. And he was going into Target. And as you all know, there is a concerted effort to boycott Target. As a matter of fact, a minister in Atlanta, I think it's Jamal Bryant, has said for 40 days we need to target organizations, companies, and corporations who have decided to get rid of DEI. I think it's a noble approach. The question I have is, will black people participate? Because if I drive by Walmart, and the other day I did this, and I actually drove up on the parking lot and just sat for about 10 minutes, it was a whole lot of us coming out of Walmart. A lot of us. A lot of us. Walmart Corporation is one of those companies who have decided that they were going to get rid of DEI. You know, my membership, and I've spent thousands of dollars at Sam's over the years because I buy my product out of Sam's so I can make my products. I buy my raw materials out of Sam's to make my products. Also, I buy food. I buy a lot of things from Sam's. I've bought a lot of things from Sam's. My membership to Sam's is coming up this week. And where I live, there are 2 Sam's within 9 minutes of me on either direction. I've decided that I'm not going to renew my membership. I'm going to go to Costco. Because Costco is one of those places that decided that they were not going to be bullied by the Trump administration and they were going to keep their DEI policies. And if you've been following social media, Costco has been swamped. They're saying Costco is so packed these days that it's hard to even get checked out of Costco because there's so many people in there. Well, I'm going to join Costco this week. I will not be going back to Sam's. I've not really been a fan of the Waltons for a long time. You see, you all have to understand the evolution of Walmart started in Arkansas. And what you all didn't know, that mom and pop stores were ran out of business by Walmart. Walmart would move into a city, one of those little small towns in Arkansas, and all those little mom and pop stores that you could go into, and you knew the owners, and they called you by the first name. I remember one. I grew up in Little Rock, across the street from John Barrow. It was right outside of John Barrow, and there was a store right across the street, and we could go up, and he had these big old things of cookies, and you could just reach in and get you a cookie out. They went out of business once Walmart moved into the neighborhood down the street. This happened all over Arkansas, but not all over Arkansas, but all over the country. Walmart has never been good for the economy of poor people. Although poor people support Walmart, their vegetables are terrible, their fruit is terrible. I see their fruit goes bad faster than any fruit that I've ever seen in my lifetime. I'm not kidding. People complain about that all the time. So now, Target is another one of those companies. I worked at Target years ago. I worked at one of their distribution centers in Little Rock back in the late 80s, part-time, before I moved to Memphis. Target always bragged about how great they were for their employees and this, that, and the other. Target decided they were no longer going to do DEI. You know, what's wrong with making sure that everybody has an equal chance to get a job? That's really what DEI was all about. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. In other words, make sure that you're doing your due diligence to hire black people who have just as much credibility as white people and credentials. The funny thing about it, in the Trump administration, they want to claim how DEI is hurting the country. Yet the people that they are hiring don't even have the credentials that many of the black people had in the previous administration. When the planes crashed a month ago, first thing Donald Trump wants to say, well, see, this is what DEI was doing. Well, what they didn't tell you is that there was a white boy, there were two white boys flying the jet, there were two white boys flying the helicopter, and then there was a white boy acting as the FAA administrator. Was that DEI? So I saw this video. Let me get back to Target. I told you, there's a lot of stuff that's been building in me since I've been off the air that is coming out today. And it's going to continue to come out. But I know we can't fit it all into 2 hours. But let me continue. This minister last week decided that he was going to go to Target. And he had 2 baskets full of stuff. And when he got to the checkout, and they checked out all those stuff, it was $2,800 and $2,282, something like that. It was close to $3,000. He looked at the cashier, and he said, how much was it? She told him the price. He said, you know what? I've been sitting here thinking, that's a lot of money to spend here at Target, and I'm a black man. And you all don't support DEI. He said, I'll tell you what. Since you all don't support DEI, I'm not going to support you. You can take all that stuff back. He was a minister. And he walks out. And I'm like, yes. Now, some people complain that, oh, well, he shouldn't even went in. He shouldn't have even got all this stuff and made that woman ring all that stuff up. No, he wanted to make a point. And if you go back, I think the number is Target, during their announcement, they have lost $15.7 billion. You see, some of you black people out there, some of you Sambos out there, I'm not going to call you an Uncle Tom, because we know Uncle Tom was not who we've been attributing, or well, I should say we, but some of you all have attributed the negativity to. It was Sambo. Uncle Tom was the one who, when people didn't have enough cotton in their bags for the day, he would take some of the cotton out of his bag and put it in their bag. He protected black women. He helped black people escape on the Underground Railroad. We've been misled to believe that that's Uncle Tom. No, that is Sambo. And some of you Sambos out there, Stephen A. Smith, Byron Donalds, Snoop Dogg, hello, have bought this hook, line, and sinker. You see, because the word is that white corporations summoned you all to a meeting. Okay? Steve Harvey was in that as well. And said, y'all got to do something about this boycott. Because we're paying you all a lot of money. See, the question is, where are your morals? Are your morals less important than your money? Steve Harvey would say yes. He's admitted it. He's admitted it. But that black preacher said, hey, I'm not spending my money with you, and I'm not going to spend another dime with you. And we need to do that as well. We need to divest from white corporations because, see, black people are the ones that make this economy go. I've said it over and over again. $1.4 trillion annually, more than the gross national product of Canada, more than the 9th largest nation in the world. You know who that $1.4 trillion come from? It comes from black people. It comes from our wallets. Every one of you all right here in Black History Month should be seeking out black businesses and supporting them. I'm sad to say that the majority of the people that are on my customer list are white. I just sent $200 worth of product out last week. It was to white people. Not the number 2, but multiple white people. There was one black client in there. But y'all won't support black businesses. Y'all just simply won't do it. But we have to do a better job. We have to do a better job. I've given you the answers to how we can solve this problem. Let me read something to you. Right now, I am looking at the AP Top 25 for college basketball. Okay? I'm just going to go through the top 10. Number 1, Red State. Number 2, Red State. Number 3, Red State. Number 4, Red State. Number 5, Red State. Number 6, Red State. Number 7, Blue State. Number 8, Red State. Number 9, Blue State. Number 10, Red State. 8 out of the top 10 basketball teams practice in a red state. But before I make my point about that, let me tell you what Canada did. See, sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. And see, the Canadians aren't scared of white people. The Canadians aren't scared of MAGA and white supremacists. You know, Donald Trump threatened the Canadians that, hey, you're going to do this, 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 and this, or we're going to slap you with a tariff. You know what Canada said? Okay, Donald, I'll see your tariffs and I'll raise you with our tariffs. And one of the things they specifically said is that they are going to target red states. You know, there's a lot of states in the north who get electricity from Canada. Canada said, hey, we're going to increase the rates on the electricity. In fact, we're going to also make sure that we target red states, not the blue states, but the red states. Hark! I don't hear anything else about tariffs against Canada. So Mexico decided to follow suit. They said, yeah, we'll stop sending migrants, but we're going to increase the rate of the fruits and vegetables that come out of Mexico. And the fruits and vegetables that are in America that are rotting in your fields, good luck finding people to pick them. I saw a picture last week. They were doing a drone overfly. Not sure where it was, but there were quite a few vegetables just out in the field rotting. It's hurting us, the consumers. It's hurting us. So why did I give you that top 10 for college basketball? You said, well, David, you said red state, blue, but you didn't say any names. I know. I did that on purpose. Because, see, I've been talking to you about this as well. Is that there is a way that we could break their backs. But the question is, how are we as it relates to our morals? You know, are we today as strong as our civil rights ancestors? Are we empowered enough to believe that we can work together for a global change? Or are we more concerned about what we're watching on TV? Remember, I told you I didn't watch the Super Bowl. After I found out that they were going to remove the tag in the end zones that says end racism, considering that 70% of the guys who play in the NFL are black, but they don't want to end racism. I told you that I didn't watch, and I had said a while back that the NFL was going to lose credibility if, in fact, they did not give Lamar Jackson the MVP that he so rightly deserved and gave it to someone who didn't deserve it. Although that someone who got it is a good football player, but his statistics were not better than Lamar Jackson's. And then you have these white people that voted for, and I found out that a couple of the white people that voted Lamar Jackson fourth. Huh? Wow. So the question I have for you today is that where is your courage? Do you have the courage to take those 10 red states, those 8 out of 10 red states, and I could go through the whole top 25 if I wanted to, and the majority of them are red states, and the majority of them are being propped up by black athletes. Do you have the courage? Do you have the courage to go to your son? And it's just not black boys now, it's black girls too who are playing college basketball. Do you have the courage to go to them and say, hey, look, I know you love your game. I know they're paying for your scholarship, but now you're getting NIL, you're getting a lot of money. Make sure you're saving that. But we need you to take a stand. We need you to say, hey, if we cannot be equal in this state, then I can't play in your state. It's the same argument that they made back in the 60s. Don't shop where you can't work. That applies today. Don't shop where you can't work. If they won't hire your people, then you should not be spending money with them. If they cannot treat you with respect and make sure that the laws in their states are equal, then you should not be running up and down the basketball court proudly emblazoned with their logos, because they're laughing at you. It would break their backs. Those same media companies who decided that hey, look, we're going to capitulate to Donald Trump. When they started losing money from those television contracts for basketball and football, because black athletes have decided to say, hey, sorry, dog, can't hire black coaches, can't support black issues, then no, sorry, we can't have it. We can't go play for you. It's time to get serious. This is where we are. We are at a crossroads. See, I've said over and over again, and this is not my quote, but many have said it before me and will continue to say it, that those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. Many of you you black folks thought that it was over. Many of you thought because President Obama was elected to office that we were in a post-racial society. What you didn't understand is that white people hated it. Even the ones who pretended that it was so great that we have a black president. They didn't care about that. They started realizing that 2042 was a lot closer than what they had ever imagined. That's where the Tea Party came from. That's where this movement reignited. I won't say where it began because racism has always been bubbling under the surface. But that's where this whole thing reignited, was when Obama was elected in 2008. That's where it began. When you had a Donald Trump claiming that Obama was not an American citizen, considering the fact that his wife was not even an American citizen, considering the fact that he married 2 foreigners, considering the fact that his current wife, nobody even knows how she got a green card. And then now her parents are over here. Hello? Did they wait the subsequent 10 years to get their green card? No. So what we must do, we must fight fire with fire. And sometimes when you use fire, we're going to get burned a little bit too. But in the long run, it will excise all of the demons. And what we have to do, those 8 out of 10 red states where our black kids are playing basketball, I can go back and look at football. It's probably going to be the same. Where those black kids are playing football or basketball, we must go to them and tell them, we need you now more than ever. We need you more than your college team. We need you more than the state of Alabama or Georgia or Arkansas or Texas or Iowa. We need you to come back to our communities because we have a war to fight. There's a reason why they send young people to war. And the old people are sitting in the office directing because we cannot fight anymore. Yes, I'm old. So we need young minds. We need young bodies. We need you back in our communities and saying, hey, if we can't work in your state, then we won't play in your state. You see, that's what we must do. We gotta take our last break. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices, on joynetradio.com.
Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at RearBrub.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from RearBrub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumbos and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Coleman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on RearBrub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at RearBrub.com.
Hey, beautiful. You look gorgeous. Are you doing something different? There's a healthy glow about you.
Thanks. I'm just my natural self.
Come on, what's your secret?
Okay, since I found skintentional.com, I've been getting a lot of those comments.
Skintentional.com?
Yes, skintentional.com is handcrafted, luxurious natural baths and body care products. Crafted for those with a designer's taste for high-quality skincare products, but won't break your bank. From body butter to oils and soaps, Skintentional has something for everyone, including the man in your life. Get your man some beard balm and oils, and yes, they offer body butters and soap for him as well, without making him smell like flowers. Go to skintentional.com and check out their amazing products. They believe self-care should be an intentional and joyous experience for all. Skintentional.com.
Pigskin, check. Round ball, check. Hard ball, check. Hockey puck, check. Burning rubber, check. We got it all on the weekly sports page with David Coleman. What else do you need? Did I say food? Can't have sports without food. What kind of show is this again?
A sports show.
Oh, okay. Pass me those rib nuts.
Yeah, we do have it all, and a whole lot more with me, Dynamic David Coleman, on the weekly sports magazine.
Welcome back to What We Must Do. Well, actually, it's Black Focus Radio, but this whole hour has been dedicated to what we must do. I haven't been on the air in a while. I'm back. You will start seeing more of Black Focus Radio again. I actually feel pretty good today. I've had some health issues. I have to go ahead and agree with my son and my wife. I am getting old, but my mind is still sharp, and as long as I have a mind, I will continue to make sure that I put forth the effort to educate my people on things that we have to do in order to overcome. So, this last segment is going to be a little bit about Elon Musk. Now, those of you who will listen to this show, and I don't like to pat myself on the back, but I do like to make the point that when I say something and people look at me and say, hey, you don't know what you're talking about, I like to come back on you. So years ago, when Elon Musk became this godchild that many of you all worshiped, I said then that he cannot be trusted. There's a reason why I said he couldn't be trusted. Because number one, he was from South Africa. His roots are Afrikaner. If you know the history of South Africa and the Afrikaners, then you know what I mean. The Afrikaans were the ones who enslaved black people in South Africa, claiming that it was their land, which no, it wasn't. They were Dutch, and they migrated to South Africa and took over the land and started abusing and murdering the people. Go back and read about Stephen Biko, Nelson Mandela. Or better still, go and read the book Kaffir Boy, Kaffir Boy, written by Mark Mathabane. I first became of that book about 1989 as we at WHBQ did an interview with Mark Mathabane. One of the most profound books I've ever read about the degradation of people in South Africa. Just quickly, one passage that stood out to me the most was about Mark Mathabane and his people. His family was so poor that they had to forage through the dumps, the trash dumps, in order to find food. And Mark Mathabane, who was a young lad at the time, had found this sack. And there were other black South Africans in this dump foraging for food. And quite often when one group or one person found food, they literally had to run for their lives because other black South Africans would fight and ultimately kill them to take the scraps, the molded food that they had found for themselves. So Mark talked about how he had found this rolled up bundle of sack, and he assumed because it was rolled up that there was something possibly edible in there, even though it may be spoiled. These other black South Africans who were also foraging in this dump saw that he had found this, and Mark was, I think he was 10 years old. And they would take sticks and move this trash and this garbage around. And they saw Mark find this, and his mother was a few yards away from him, and she saw these other South Africans moving towards Mark to take what he had found. And she ran towards him, and she had this big stick, and she had to swing this stick to keep them away from what Mark had found. When they were finally able to open this bundle, it was a dead black South African child that someone had discarded because it looked as though it could have only been out there a few weeks because decomposition hadn't even set in. And it was believed that someone had discarded this child because it was an infant. And they had brought this infant to term but couldn't afford to feed them. This is what the Afrikaners were doing to the black South Africans. Elon Musk's father made money off of emeralds in South Africa on the backs of black South Africans. Elon Musk is no genius. But we now allowed him into our government, unelected. I said then, 3 years ago, that Elon Musk could not be trusted. You see, you can't trust a billionaire who makes his money off of everybody. You see, Elon Musk has targets in, or I should say, interest in Russia. You say, oh, Dave, you just kidding. Oh, remember? He was supposed to send Starlink technology to Ukraine because Ukraine is fighting Russia. And because he has interest in Russia, he decided that he did not want to do that for Ukraine. Elon Musk has interest in China. He has interest in the China's World Bank, whom he got, I want to say, $1.4 billion to set up a Tesla center in China. By the way, you know, Tesla stock and people buying Teslas is dropping like flies all over the country, all over the world. By the way, when you go into business with China, one of the things that you have to do is allow them to have access to your technical information. That was the whole thing about TikTok. Hello? Elon Musk cannot be trusted. But y'all didn't want to believe me. So I want to read to you today. You all, I'm sure, know U.S. Army Lieutenant General Russell L. Honore. You've seen him. You may not remember his name, but this man, black man, by the way, has more credibility than many of this people, including the president, Congress, governors, and senators, than any other person. This is a man that when he speaks, people listen. This is a man that when there's a disaster in the past, they always call Lieutenant General Russell L. Honore and ask, what should we do? So here's what he said about our national security risk. MAGA billionaire Elon Musk. America cannot afford to ignore this. Mr. Musk's business ventures are heavily reliant on China. He borrowed at least $1.4 billion from banks controlled by the Chinese government to help build Tesla's Shanghai Gigafactory, which was responsible for more than half of the Tesla's global deliveries in the third quarter of 2024. The general goes on to write in the op-ed in the New York Times, China does not tend to give things away, he adds. The country's laws stipulate that the Communist Party can demand intelligence from any company doing business in China in exchange for participating in the country's markets. According to Honore, this means that China could demand that Musk hand over sensitive materials due to his close proximity to the Trump administration, using his business as leverage. The last thing the United States needs is for China to potentially have an easier way of obtaining classified intelligence and national security information. The question now is whether the incoming Trump administration will take this risk seriously. The fact that Mr. Musk spent $250 million to help re-elect Donald Trump does not give the incoming White House the license to look the other way at the national security risk he poses. If Mr. Trump and his appointees mean what they say about getting tough on America's adversaries, then they will act on this matter without delay. There is too much at stake to ignore what's right in front of them. That's U.S. Army Lieutenant General Russell L. Honore. And all he's doing is echoing what I said about Elon Musk a long time ago. I don't trust any billionaires and millionaires. We saw what happened to Fox News when a billionaire took that over. Fox used to be a credible station. I used to watch them. Many of the black shows that we watched was on Fox early on. We forget that In Living Color was on Fox. It's what we must do, folks. We must continue to speak truth to power. We must continue to speak out boldly. Okay? We must continue to say what needs to be said. And when one of your black people who dares to stand up on the mountaintop and shout the wrongs, then you must support him or her. You can't turn your back on them anymore, because they're not shouting for themselves. They're shouting for you. I'm not shouting for myself. I'm shouting for your children's children, my grandchildren, your grandchildren. If you want a future for them that has been equal to you, because you stand on the backs of the people in the 40s and the 50s. You stand on the backs of W.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, Harriet Tubman, Paul Laurence Dunbar, Frederick Douglass. You stand on the backs of the Red Tails. And you're about to let their hard work go to waste. As I close, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but in times of challenge. Those are words by the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Today is our challenge. Will we stand boldly and face it? Or will we cower and let those challenges run us into the ground? I ask you. Y'all have a great day. It's been Black Focus Radio, and I'm back. See you next time.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on joynetradio.com.